Ever since I was little, I've always wondered in the back of my head how Americans and America in general can have so much stuff and be the wealthiest country in the world by far and yet still be in the middle of the pack when it comes to happiness levels. So for my first quote, I chose, "He who desires is always poor." And I think this explains America to a T. And the perfect example, one of the, not necessarily the perfect, but the most recent example I can think of is the new iPhone 6 and 6 Plus that just came out. Now, if you think just a year ago, the iPhone 5S came out, which is still one of the most amazing technological devices that's ever been created in history, and now people are throwing it to the curb like it's a piece of junk, just for a little bit bigger screen and a little thinner phone and a few more megapixels and a little faster camera, etc., etc. So I agree wholeheartedly with, and for my thesis I wrote that materialism is a perpetual trap. And for my first point I wrote that contentment breeds happiness. And I think there are two types of contentment here which are easily confused for one another. The first type of contentment is kind of accepting what you're given, being frugal, still working hard, not necessarily satisfied, but you are content. And the second kind of contentment, which it is easily confused with, is kind of a lazy content, kind of a beaten and given up, and you don't think you can improve your situation, so you just say, alright, whatever. And so the first type of contentment I spoke of is the type that breeds happiness. And for point 2, I wrote that money and happiness have little correlation. I think money and happiness are somewhat of a bell-shaped curve. You need a little bit of money in order to do things and put food on the table and provide clothes for yourself and put a roof over your head. But is there really a difference between a Toyota and a Mercedes or a Lexus and a 2,000 square foot house and a 4,000 square foot house and Walmart clothes or a thrift shop clothes or True Religion jeans and a Gucci belt, what have you? Money can't buy love and relationships and memories. I think you have to learn to live in the moment and build relationships with people. So many of the best things in life are free and money can't buy. And my second quote kind of ties in with this a little bit. And it's a quote by Dale Carnegie, and I believe it's from the book How to Win Friends and Influence People, which I recommend anyone to read. It's, you can make more friends in 2 months by becoming more interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get people interested in you. And I agree wholeheartedly. And for my thesis, I wrote, "People like others that take interest in them and make an effort." Now, I think the quote is kind of a paradox because other people are trying to get you interested in them, but you're just aware of human nature and how people are eternally interested in what they're interested in. So I think the division lies in being aware of it. But I still agree completely because, like I said, you're eternally interested in what you're interested in. Your interests are always going to be there, so you might as well get to know other people, broaden your horizons. And for point 1, I wrote that selflessness attracts, and for point 2, I wrote that, like I said earlier, you're eternally interested in what you're interested in. So for point 1, selflessness attracts, you get what you give, and the first example that popped into my mind was Remember the Titans, the old Disney movie. And the team, it's set in the segregation wars of the 1960s, and the original hostility was probably warranted by the African Americans, but the movie was a great metaphor to show what can happen when people realize that we're all just human beings, Homo sapiens, and the power of collectivity and what can happen when you unite and put your fellow man before you and come together. And I think they went on to win the state championship, or they might have lost in the final, but that movie is just a great example for this quote.